Secretary Geithner facing some pretty tough questions today on Capitol Hill. Take a listen to this exchange with Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, who's a Republican from Minnesota. Watch this.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Secretary, what provision in the Constitution could you point to give authority for the actions that have been taken by the Treasury since March of '08?
Oh, well, the Congress legislated in the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act a range of very important new authorities.
Sir, in the Constitution, what in the Constitution could you point to give authority to the Treasury for the extraordinary actions that have been taken?
Every action that the Treasury and the Fed and the FDIC is been using authority granted by this body, the Congress.
And in the Constitution, what could you point to?
Under the laws of the land.
Very interesting exchange, and Congresswoman Michele Bachmann joins us live now. Congresswoman, welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Martha.
Basically, though, he threw it right back at Congress. He said, you gave us the authority to do everything that we did. What do you say to that?
I think that more authority has been taken by the Treasury Secretary and the Federal Reserve Chair than at any other time in the nation's history. Remember, never in the history of the Federal Reserve has the Fed's discount window ever been open to a private investment bank like it was back in March of '08 when Federal Reserve Chair Bernanke exposed $29 billion worth of taxpayer risk. That's when we all thought $29 billion was a lot of money. We are many trillions of dollars down the road now with no end in sight.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. This is a very unprecedented move, and I want to just be on the record, as I know you would want, that you voted against TARP. You voted against all of this bailout. Is that correct?
Yes, I voted against it as well as everything last week too.
But will you concede that it is the body of Congress that has allowed all of this to happen in many ways? That AIG, those bonuses never would have gotten paid for if it weren't for that last-minute clause that got stuck in by Congress?
Without a doubt, the Obama administration knew exactly what it was doing when it put forward the stimulus bill. Senator Chris Dodd knew exactly what he was doing when his amendment went into the stimulus bill. This was written, conceived by Democrats, signed by Democrats, and a Democrat president put this into effect. Now the Democrats feigned mock outrage last week. None of this makes sense. But what I'm very concerned about was the president's last answer that you just showed in this last clip. That's the president saying he wants new authority, more authority for both the Treasury Secretary and Bernanke to go forward and now start regulating private businesses and employee comp. This is very scary because this is centralized economic planning. This is not about free markets anymore.
Congresswoman, it's Trace Gallagher, and your last question we never got an answer to. It's good to see you. We never got an answer because Barney Frank cut you off and you were asking.
That's right,
a private investment, we're talking about these where the private investors will come in and buy up these toxic assets.
Yes.
The government is fronting 95% of that money, and your question was, what benefit did the taxpayers reap? We didn't get an answer. Do you know the answer?
Well, this is what my understanding is that the taxpayers front about 90 to 95% of all the money on these toxic asset funds, and the taxpayer will only reap 50% of the benefit. These are sweetheart deals for big institutional investors, and once again, the chump in all of this is the forgotten man of the average American taxpayer. The taxpayer's been left holding the bag in deal after deal after deal. This one is no different. And so that's my concern. But I'm very concerned about the Obama administration wanting now to tell private companies what they can pay their management and their employees. This is all about centralized government planning. This is not the road to go down. The very first question I asked is, are we jettisoning free market capitalism in favor of economic centralized planning? And I think we're getting the answer in the actions of the Obama administration. This is a lurch towards socialism.
Well, I mean, it was said by the administration that only government can help in this situation.
Right.
So I think you're absolutely right about that.
Right.
Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Martha. Thanks, Trace.